寝起きです。記者会見が思ってたよりも早く始まった。慌てて今着替えてます。うん。はい、おはようございます。さっきね、俺着替えながらちょっと最初の冒頭ね、日本の話をしてました、トランプが。オリンピックが延期されて、来年のオリンピックにI'll be thereって言ってましたね。必ず行くからって言ってましたね。I told him I'll be there って言ったから、多分来年会いましょうってことだ。トランプは安倍の任期が延長されるという前提の話をしてましたね。今日木曜日だよね。ゴミを出さなきゃいけない。Plus, we have a test that's a very high level test, and it's a test that's very accurate. 3.1 million face shields, 2.6 million surgical gowns, 14.6 million gloves, and almost 6,000 ventilators, which go to the areas of greatest needs. We sent, over the last day, 4,000 ventilators to New York, and I spoke with the governor about that. He was happy. I spoke with the mayor also about that. Mayor de Blasio was very happy. It's hard not to be happy with the job we're doing, that I can tell you. Throughout this national emergency, everyday heroes continue to step forward and demonstrate the extraordinary character of our nation, including the people behind me. By the way, these people are amazing. These people are amazing people, and they become, I don't know, maybe I should just speak for myself, but to me, they become friends. Maybe they don't like me. Maybe they don't. Maybe they do. I don't know. All I can tell you is they're talented people that work very hard. In Maryland, a 7-year-old boy used his own birthday money to buy meals for dozens of senior citizens. in Nevada, a college student recruited 90
ほらもうアメリカになってきたぞ。アメリカがアメリカになってきたぞ。
to the most vulnerable. This is happening all over the country. Thousands and thousands.
Every day, every life heroes っていうことを言い出した。日常のヒーローたちみたいなことを言い出してますね。
Hundreds of medical students have volunteered to provide child care for hospital workers, helping to keep our doctors and nurses on the front lines, fighting to save lives. These inspiring Americans remind us that we all have a role to play in winning this great national battle, and it's really a worldwide battle. We're dealing with other nations all the time. The people here are, I am a little bit, I take calls from a lot of people. They're in trouble. A lot of countries are in big trouble.
てか行動規範がハリウッド映画っていうからハリウッド映画が結構リアルにアメリカやった。
He's been working rather hard. I will tell you, Steve Mnuchin is a fantastic guy, and he loves our country, and he's been dealing with both sides, Republican and Democrats. He sort of lived over in that beautiful building. It's a very beautiful building. To me, one of the most beautiful buildings actually in the world, and he's gotten to know it, Steve, very well. So if we could have a little update, Steve, would be fantastic as to how we're doing, what it's looking like. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And first, let me say, I would like to thank Mitch McConnell for his leadership, and I'd also like to thank Chuck Schumer for the enormous bipartisan support we had on this bill, and the many senators, both Republicans and Democrats, that worked tirelessly over the last 5 days on
アメリカが党派を超えてバイパーティザンって言ってきましたよ。
I got to live in the LBJ room for the last 5 days, and we couldn't be more pleased with the unprecedented response from the Senate to protect American workers and American business in this situation. The President has outlined many of these, but let me just quickly go through them. Again, small business retention loans. This will cover roughly 50% of the private payroll in small businesses, where we will immediately make loans that will supply 8 weeks of salaries as long as they keep workers employed and overhead. And those loans will be forgiven at the end of the period as long as they keep workers employed. SBA loans, but the Treasury will be issuing new regulations authorizing almost every single insured bank to make these. I expect by the end of next week, we will have a very simple process where these can be made and dispersed in the same day. So this will be a very simple system to get money into small business hands. For companies that don't qualify that, we have a economic program of tax incentives to retain workers. And as the President said, we have enhanced unemployment insurance for people who don't fit into these 2 programs that will be administered through the states. We also have economic impact payments. These will be within the next 3 weeks, direct payments into most people's deposit accounts. And for those that don't have it, we will be having the checks in the mail. Treasury will have additional authorities. We have $500 billion that we can use to work with the Federal Reserve for emergency programs that will create up to an additional $4 trillion if needed to support American business and American workers in an unprecedented way. And then finally, the President mentioned $100 billion to hospitals and $150 billion to states that have specific coronavirus expenses, as well as many additional things. Mr. President, I especially want to thank you and the Vice President. You were constantly available to us. We spoke constantly throughout the day. You gave us guidance and quick decisions on many issues. And again, thank everybody for this great bipartisan work. This is going to be enormous help for the American workers and the American economy. The President was very determined that Congress would move swiftly to protect
デボラ・バークスがすっごいしょっぱい顔してる。なぜだ？
Day and night, right? Day and night. That was a lot of work, and we'll see how it all goes. We still need a vote, Steve, don't we? Do you have a question? Yes.
Do you think this bill will keep the economy afloat?
Hopefully a long time.
今日は経済政策に限っての話だね。
We're going to take care of the American worker. We're going to take care of these companies that fuel this country and make the country great. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. But we think,
I would say we'd anticipate 3 months.
ここでねトランプが言うのはIt's not their fault 彼らのせいじゃないからっつって民間企業のことをだトランプでさえ自己責任って言わない。
Needed to cover the economy.
and don't forget, a lot of this is going to be to keep companies that are very strong, AAA rated companies previously, to keep them going, and it's going to be in the form of loans, so the money's going to come back. A lot of this money's coming back.
Separately, let me ask you about something you said yesterday. You said we should never be reliant on a foreign country for the means of our own survival.
Yeah.
What did you mean
Well, I've
by
been saying that for a long time. Well, we're reliant on many countries where we give up our supply chains, we give up our factories, we give up our production facilities, and we can buy it someplace else for a little bit lower price. But it's really costing us more when that happens because we lose jobs, we lose everything, and we lose our independence, and we can't let that happen. So we'll be making some changes. We have been making those
Is
changes.
there an executive order to basically ban the export of medical equipment?
I don't know that we'll need that, but I think it's happening by itself. I think a lot of things are happening. Well, some people, we make the best medical equipment in the world, and you have some people like the European Union, they don't take it because they have specifications that don't allow our equipment in because it's designed in a different way. Even though it's a better way, it's designed. They're all playing games against us, okay? They've been playing games against us for years, and no president has ever done anything about it. But the European Union, you look at medical equipment, we make the best medical equipment in the world, but we can't sell it because we're not appropriately. And yet we take their medical equipment in our country. We're changing things, Steve. All this is changing. But they have specifications so that our equipment, designed specifically so that our equipment can't come into their country. It's a very terrible thing that's happened to our country. And let me tell you, some of the people that took the biggest advantage of us are allies. You know, we talk about allies. They took advantage of us in many ways, but financially as well as even militarily. When you look, if you look at NATO, the abuse that was given to our country on NATO, where they wouldn't pay. And we were paying for everybody. We're paying. Now, because of me, they're paying a lot. Now they paid $135 billion more. And then ultimately, Secretary General Stoltenberg, who I think you would say is maybe my biggest fan, we got him to pay an additional $400 billion, other countries. And but you know that, and then there's the trade. They make it almost impossible for us to have a fair deal. They know this. They know I'm just waiting. We have all the advantages, by the way. It's going to be easy when I decide to do it. But this isn't the right time to do it. But we've been treated very, very unfairly by the European Union.
Mr. President, four Republican senators have indicated that the extra $600 for unemployment insurance may encourage workers to leave their jobs, even though you can only collect unemployment if you're fired. I'm curious what you think of that concern.
Well, I know the issue very well. We talked about it just a little while ago. Steve, I'm going to let you maybe discuss that.
Sure. Now, the President and I spoke to several of those senators today, but let me just explain the issue, which is we wanted to have enhanced unemployment insurance. Most of these state systems have technology that's 30 years old or older. So if we had the ability to customize this with much more specifics, we would have. This was the
まあ後でホワイトハウスは紙出てくると思うけどねすぐ
get money out quickly in a fair way. So we used $600 across the board. And I don't think it'll create incentives. Most Americans, what they want to keep their jobs. And I said for 50% of these businesses, they will have the businesses keep those jobs. So this was, our number one issue was how do we make sure that American workers who needed to keep getting paid, this is no fault of their own, that businesses have been shut down. The president and vice president wanted to make sure those hardworking Americans got money, and this was the most efficient way of doing it.
Senators that you spoke with, are they in agreement now?
I'm not going to comment on the specifics of where they are, but I would say, our expectation is this bill passes tonight and gets to the House tomorrow. When they pass it, we need to get this money into the American economy and American workers. That's the importance of this.
今から決議すんの？
would get actually more money, but we don't want to give a disincentive. But they have
あ、法案提出前だったのね。
question, actually. Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you. The family of, on another subject, the family of retired FBI agent Robert Levinson says that U.S. officials have concluded that he's died in Iranian custody. Are you aware of that? And how did U.S.
お
officials...
お、全く関係ない話だ。
You know, I've been very much involved in that, and he was a great gentleman and a great family.
イランで捕虜になってた FBI の捜査官が死んだらしいって話になってますね。
To the family, I believe, but it's not looking good. He wasn't well for years anyway in Iran. It's not looking promising. We've gotten so many people back. We've got 2 people back this week, but Robert Levinson, who was outstanding, he's been sick for a long time, and he had some rough problems prior to his detainment or capture, and we feel terribly for the family, but
やっぱ死んじゃったんだ。認めた。イランのFBI の捜査官が死んだって噂本当だったんだ。
it's not looking great, but I won't accept that he's dead. They haven't told us that he's dead.
死んだとは言えないっつって。
That is the case.
違う、捕虜は殺されたっぽいね。
Mr. President, you tweeted earlier linking the closing of the country to your election success in November. Is this Easter timeline based on your political interests?
What do you mean
Because
by election success? No.
you said that the media wants the country to remain closed to hurt your own
No, I think the media, the media would like to see me do poorly in the election. I think,
Lawmakers and
I think
economists, both
that-
sides of the aisle have said that reopening the country by Easter is not a good idea. What is that plan based on?
just so you understand, are you ready? I think there are certain people that would like it not to open so quickly. I think there are certain people that would like it to do financially poorly because they think that would be very good as far as defeating me at the polls. And I don't know if that's so, but I do think it's so that that there are people in your profession that would like that to happen. I think it's very clear. I think it's very clear that there are people in your profession that write fake news. You do. She does. There are people in your profession that write fake news. They would love to see me for whatever reason because we've done one hell of a job. Nobody's done the job that we've done. And it's lucky that you have this group here right now for this problem. Or you wouldn't even have a country.
すげえな。
Okay. Go ahead.
すげえなこいつ。開き直りやがったな。
How soon or how rapidly do you expect to see
Who you with?
on the CDM? And my second question is, we're hearing you're pushing for April 6th to have direct payments issued to taxpayers. Is that the target date?
I think it's
Again,
very much.
I would say our expectation is within 3 weeks, we will have direct payments out where we have.
3週間後には小切手が国民に作って
we're looking to get a lot more
3週間後には
procedures to do that. So 3 weeks for that, and I would say the end of next week, we want all the banks.
3週間後
Same day.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 2 questions for you. One is that tomorrow you're going to be speaking to the G20 leaders, and I want to know if you're going to lead an effort to craft a worldwide ban on wild animal markets as to prevent another pandemic, given that COVID-19 is a zoonotic that was transferred to humans in trade of exotic animals.
Yeah, I don't know that that subject's going to come up. There is a lot of talk that that's how this all happened, came out of China, and they say that's how it happened in China. So it's something maybe will be talked about, but it's not the top of my list.
Yes,
I think we'll have a very good conference.
Well, and also, Dr. Ashish Shah, who is the head of Harvard's Global Health Institute, says that the key to getting this economy open as soon as possible is to test everyone who needs testing so we can quarantine all infected individuals and allow everyone else to go back to work immediately. Would you subscribe to that strategy?
No, but we have tested more than anybody. I saw it.
And if not, how many deaths are acceptable?
Yeah. How many? None. Okay. How many deaths are acceptable to me? None. Okay, none. If that's your question. Look, I saw him. I saw his statement. We have tested by far more than anybody. We're testing more than anybody right now. There's nobody even close. And our tests are the best tests. They're the most accurate tests. But if you're saying we're going to test 350 million people, I watched his statement. I disagree with it. We can go to certain states. I could name them now, but I'm not going to do that. But we can go to certain states right now that have virtually no problem or a very small problem. We don't have to test the entire state in the Middle West or wherever they may be. You don't have to test the entire state. I think it's ridiculous. We don't have to do it. A lot of those states could go back right now, and they probably will, because at some point in the not too distant future, certain states are going to come off the rolls. Maybe New York can't, and maybe California can't. Maybe the state of Washington can't, although if you look at them, their biggest problem was in one nursing home. Yeah, go ahead.
But the states aren't silent, and so, I mean, somebody, if you test one state, and then the person moves over to the other state, well then...
You know, you're going to just look at that. But if you take a look at the states, and many states that I'm talking about, they don't have a problem. We have some big problems, but it's confined to certain areas, high-density areas. So why would we test the entire nation, 350 people? With that being said, I'm going to say it again. We tested far more than anybody else. We have the ability to test.
ここまでテストしてるのにメディアからテストは足らん言われてんだよな。
System that I inherited. We have now tested with the best test far more than anybody else. When I say anybody else, I'm talking about other countries. No country is even close. They came out with a statistic, I guess, yesterday that I heard from Dr. Birx, where it's for eight days here, more than 8 weeks in South Korea. And South Korea's done a good job. But we did in 8 days more than South Korea did in 8 weeks. That's a big number. And we're getting, I said before, exponentially better. Every day it's going up substantially. We have an incredible apparatus built. But no, I don't want to test 350 million people. I think it's ridiculous. Yes, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. 2 questions. One follow-up on the G20, because the UN asked the G20 countries to do for more resources for a coordinated stimulus package, ban on tariffs, waive on sanctions to try to prevent what they call an apocalyptic pandemic. Would you consider those measures? And
With respect to what?
What?
on tariffs, and also related also to waive tariffs, and also
We have strong
sanctions.
borders.
And would you consider to join
この人メキシコの人だね。
So before I came here, we weren't into borders. We had a country, people could come in. We had a whole different deal. Now we're up almost 164 miles. Think of that. 164 miles of wall. Big, beautiful wall. And in those areas, it's very, very tough to come in. We've been very tough on the borders. I mean, where we have the wall built, nobody's getting through. Now they're going around, but that's a long trip. They're going around. That's the way they get through. But no, I'm very strong on borders, and I don't want people coming in here. What I want is, if they're going to come in, they have to come in legally. They have to come in through merit. We're not having the people that you're talking about come into our country. All right.
Sir, question for you and then for Dr. Fauci, if you'll let me. Both Republican and Democrat packages of the stimulus included $25 million worth of funding for the Kennedy Performance Arts Center here in Washington, D.C. Shouldn't that money be going to masks,
Well,
respirators?
I tell you what, I approved that, and I knew it was 35 million, and we actually took off 10. But I'm a fan of that, although I haven't spent time there because I'm far too busy. I'd love to go there evenings, but I'm too busy doing things because that's more important for me than going there. But the Kennedy Center has suffered greatly because nobody can go there. It's essentially closed. And they do need some funding. And I said, look, that was a Democrat request. That was not my request. But you got to give them something. It's something that they wanted. You know, it works that way. The Democrats have treated us fairly. I really believe that we've had a very good back and forth. And I say that with respect to Chuck Schumer. I spoke to him a number of times. But, you know, they had requests also. So that was a request. There were 35, as you know, and it came down to 25. We got it down to 25. We agreed. I said, that's a lousy soundbite. That's not a good soundbite. But that's the way life works. With that being said, the Kennedy Center, they do a beautiful job, an incredible job. David Rubenstein does a fantastic job. He's very much involved, and he puts up a lot of money, and he does things that a lot of people wouldn't be able to do or do. But they've been essentially closed. they have tremendous deficits that are built up. I mean, this thing has been devastating to it. So I didn't have a big problem with it, but this was a request from the Democrats because of the fact that they have a facility that's essentially closed up.
Yeah, another question, sir.
Otherwise, you couldn't go there if you wanted to. If I wanted to go there tonight to look at Romeo and Juliet, I'd love to see Romeo and Juliet tonight, right? You know what would happen? They say, sorry, 250 people or 50 people, whatever it might be down to. Go ahead.
And then earlier today, Senator Marco Rubio told RTP that, quote, the World Health Organization showed favoritism to China, unquote. And then Representative Michael McCall, the ranking member on the House Foreign Relations Committee, he questioned the integrity of the World Health Organization's director, saying, quote, that there were several red flags in his past with respect to his relationship with China. Do you agree? Do you think the World Health Organization showed favoritism? And then once all the dust settles,
WHO は中国をひいきにしてると思いますかって。
its relationship with the World Health Organization?
Well, I think there is certainly a lot of talk that has been very unfair.
まあフェアな話があったのは事実だと。
People feel that it's been very unfair. It's been very much sided with China. And a lot of people are not happy about it. At the same time, Dr. Fauci and myself and other people, there are people on there that we like and we know. A lot of, I think your friends are on there, a lot of good people, a lot of good professionals. I don't know, it'd be interesting to hear if you'd like to talk about the World WHO. But the fact is that I have heard for years that is very much biased toward China. So I don't know. Doctor, you want me to get you into this political mess?
No, I don't want you to do that, but I will. Tedros is really an outstanding person. I've known him from the time that he was the Minister of Health of Ethiopia. I mean, obviously, over the years, anyone who says that the WHO has not had problems has not been watching the WHO. But I think under his leadership, they've done very well. He has been all over this. I was on the phone with him a few hours ago, leading a WHO call. No, I'm not talking about China. You asked me about Tedros.
World Health Organization praising China for its transparency and leadership on their response to the pandemic?
You know, I can't comment on that because, I mean, I don't have any viewpoint into it. I mean, I don't even know what your question is.
Can I follow up on that phone call, please?
Welcome to the team. You know, let me just tell you, I've heard that for years. I spoke to him yesterday. Seems fine to me. I don't know. But we're the ones that gave the great response, and we're the ones that kept China out of here. And if we didn't do it, you'd have thousands and thousands of people who would have died, that are now living and happy. If I didn't do that early, call on China, and nobody wanted that to happen. Everybody thought it was just unnecessary to do it. And if we didn't do that, thousands and thousands of people would have died, more than what's happened. So that's it. All right, maybe one more, Steve. Go ahead.
When you have this G20 meeting tomorrow, what sort of coordinated response are
2
you
時間
expecting?
We're going to have a meeting with the 20 nations total, including us, and it'll be a conference call tomorrow morning sometime. I look forward to people I know, I like. I think in every instance I like every one of them. But it'll be an interesting call. You'll be the first to know.
Next week, when the 15-day period ends, what should we expect then? Are you going to extend it for another
We'll be
week?
talking. I'll be speaking. I'll be speaking with Tony. I'll be speaking with Deborah. I'll be speaking with some of the people that they like and respect, and that they're going to bring along with them. We'll be speaking to Vice President Mike Pence and Steve, and we'll be speaking to everybody. I'm not going to do anything rash or hastily. I don't do that. But the country wants to get back to work. Our country was built to get back to work. We don't have a country where they say, hey, let's close it down for 2 years. We can't do that. It's not our country. So we're going to be talking, and it could be we'll do sections of our country. There's big sections of our country that are very, little affected by what's taking place. Then there are other sections that are very heavily affected. So there's a big difference. But no, I would say by Easter we'll have a recommendation, and maybe before Easter, and at the end of the 15th day, or even during the 15th day, I think we'll have some kind of a recommendation. But our country wants to get back to work, Steve. I have had so many people, and they want to practice social distancing, and they want to practice no handshaking, no handshaking. They're not going to walk around hugging and kissing each other in the office when they come back, even though they may feel like it. They're going to wash their hands more than they've ever done. They're going to do all the things you're supposed to do. But Steve, you know what? It's time. People want to get back to work. I get it from both sides in all fairness. And maybe it's a combination of both. Tony said before, combination of both is sometimes very good. But there are
諦めた。昨日の小池百合子の記者会見みたいにリアルタイムにツッコミをしようかなと思ったんやけど、そこに英語から日本語への同時通訳が入ると無理です。追いつかない頭が。
I'd like to get our country back. I have tremendous numbers of people wanting to go back. You have store owners where the store is sitting there. They don't know what's happening. They got to get back. You have businesses that are going to be closed. The longer we stay out, the longer we do it, we want to go quickly. The longer we stay out, the harder it is to bring this incredible. We were having the most successful years that we've ever had in the history of our country. You saw what happened yesterday with the stocks, and today they were up. I'm telling you, if Steve gets the deal done, the incredible incentive is going to take care of people. It's going to take care of our workers. It's going to take care of companies that employ all these workers, small and big. By the way, I would say we spend more time on the small companies, Steve, than we did on the big companies. People ask about that. We spend more time thinking about the small businesses than the big, and that's what that really fuels our country. We want to get back, and the people want to get back. We want to get our country going again, and we'll be able to do that. So, Vice President's going to stay with you, and going to take a few more questions specifically, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
あとはタスクホースだけになったけど CNN はタスクホースの記者会見をやらないと。
When this initial 15-day period is over with, that's early next week. He wants the country to get back to work, and he also reiterated that by Easter Sunday, in about 18 days or so from now, he will get a recommendation whether to move in that direction. We're waiting to speak with the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. We're going to get her reaction, but I want to go to Dr. Sanjay Gupta first. Sanjay, the president, very pleased by this $2 trillion legislative economic stimulus package. He says the Senate, they're hoping the Senate passes it tonight, the House passes it tomorrow. He will quickly sign it into law, and he's hoping billions of dollars will go to hospitals and elsewhere to deal with this crisis.
Yeah, and it's money that, clearly I think people have come to understand is necessary. There's a lot of resources that are necessary at these hospitals, not the least of which is this personal protective equipment for healthcare workers. I mean, we talk about this a lot, but in order to even do testing, Wolf, these healthcare workers have to put on this personal protective equipment. So everything's really dependent on one another. And also, the other part of this, Wolf, obviously, people staying at home, and that's going to be an open question still, how long that period will last. But, to be able to actually be able to offset some of the losses that people are the work and all that is important, obviously, for them financially, but also to be able to allow people to stay home, because if people start to not become diligent about that, that's a concern. And, we saw that in other countries. We saw that cases started to surge again after that. So hopefully that'll go help some of those workers as well, Wolf.
I got Daniel Dale with us as well, our fact checker. Daniel, what jumped out at you from what we heard from the president?
Well, Trump continued to boast about how the pace of testing for the coronavirus in the United States compares to testing in South Korea. He is correct that the U.S. is now conducting more tests than they are there, but what he's leaving out is the population difference. So the U.S. has more than 6 times South Korea's population, and so per capita, South Korea is still far outpacing the United States. We have approximate figures, but it's fewer than 1 in 200 South Koreans who've been tested, and it's more than 1 in 700 Americans who've been tested. He's also left out the fact that South Korea started testing much more quickly and implemented much more stringent post-test measures to try to contain this. And so, yes, Trump is correct in terms of the absolute numbers, but he's not telling the full story here, Wolf.
I want everybody to stand by.
すごいね。やっぱメディアはもう批判的な検証が始まってます。で、トランプの記者会見の後に下院のナンシー・ペロシが出てきました。すごいね、この展開は。羨ましいな、アメリカのメディアが。
Well, I'm very happy to hear the president say it will pass the Senate this evening. We thought it would be earlier in the day. It's so necessary. As you know, Wolf, our country is facing a pandemic unlike anything we've seen in over 100 years. It has the lives and the livelihood of the American people are greatly affected. So from the standpoint of healthcare, which is the important issue, the health issue, because when we solve that, then everything will bounce back, I'm sure. I want to take the opportunity to thank our men and women who are our healthcare providers, our first responders, our emergency responders as well, for the sacrifice they make. And part of our insistence is that we continue to fight to get them the personal protective equipment that they need, and they don't have that all yet. They are our heroes in all of this, saving lives by risking their own. As we go to the economic side of it, I think the cure is the best answer to our economy, but we have the best minds in the country working 24/7, all hands on deck, to take us to that place. In the meantime, we have to address the economic strife that our families are suffering in this time. And so I was very pleased that in the last several days, the congressional Democrats were able to turn upside down the bill that was presented at the beginning of the weekend. It was a trickle-down corporate bill. It is now a bubble-up workers' bill, and we're very proud of that. I hope that it would pass the Senate quickly so that we could predict what time we can get on with it tomorrow. But we stand ready because the urgency is very clear. The solutions are not everything we wanted, but many of the provisions we had in our House bill are in the Senate bill, and we know that we're going to need more for our states, for our cities, for our hospitals, for healthcare providers, for our workers, for our families, for our economy.
How soon after the Senate passes it, let's assume it passes tonight, Madam Speaker, can you pass it in the House?
Well, when we see that the bill has passed the Senate, our distinguished Majority Leader, Mr. Hoyer, will give 24 hours notice, at least 24 hours notice, to our members that the bill will be on the floor and that we can show them actually what the bill is so they know what they're voting on and can review it. I believe that at that time, one option we will not have is unanimous consent because there are those who might object to that, but we can take a voice vote. If someone calls for a recorded vote, then we're prepared to go in that direction as well. But what is important is for us to recognize the good that is in the bill, appreciate it for what it does, don't judge it for what it doesn't, because we have more bills to come. At the start of all this, we had two bills which were about emergencies, the first two bills, and the emergency isn't over, but the focus was on those two bills. Now we're mitigating for the damage of it all to the health and to the livelihood of the American people. That is in this bill. And then we will go forward for recovery. Emergency, mitigation, recovery. And again, all along the way, still addressing the emergency and mitigation needs by focusing on how we build the economy in a positive way as we meet the health needs of the American people.
Assuming the House passes the legislation as written and passed by the Senate, how quick, and the President immediately signs it into law, how quickly will relief get to those who really need it right now?
Nice.
Well, one of the things we want to do is to, and we're doing it now.
今頭の中英語と日本語がちゃんぽんになったからナイス質問って言いそうになりそう。
We've been on all day listening to our committee chairs make the presentations of what the bill will do, but also how members can enable their constituents to take advantage of what enables them to take advantage of it all. And so it's important that people know that they're entitled to this or that provision, but also that some things take a little longer, probably take a month to get the direct payments, which are very important. We had bigger direct payments in our bill, and we think we'll get more direct payments in another bill, but nonetheless, it's still
She doesn't answer questions. どうしたナンシー・ペロシ、質問に答えてない。
So in different categories, but they're talking about small business loans, or you're talking about grants from small business. This is the first time small business grants, whether you're talking about unemployment insurance, whether you're talking about direct payments, whether you're talking about aid to hospitals, assistance, state stabilization fund. They all have their own pace. some of it almost immediate, others a little more time for the process.
It sounds like you and the Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, are roughly on the same page. He says it's going to be about 3 weeks before the checks.
そう、
start
3週間
reaching
って言ってた。
folks. 3 weeks is relatively quickly. He also says that the package is designed to help the American public for 3 months. Do you agree with him?
Well, the unemployment insurance, thanks to our Democratic members of Congress, and I salute Chuck Schumer because he led the way in that negotiation. We were 4 months for unemployment insurance, and some of the provisions go even longer. But I do think that if he said that today, I haven't heard him say that, but if that's the
そう、彼女まだ聞いてなかったのね。
that we are soon going to have another bill. There's no way the states can bear the burden of this plague and this assault on the economy in their states. I can speak with some authority on California. Governor Cuomo has been articulate and calling for more already. But that is not to diminish what we are doing now. So hopefully 3 months, we have a cure. It's all greatly diminished, and that would be great. But I do think that the consequences of this will prevail for a while. So we have to be ready to not only finish the job, but to do it in a way that takes us in a very positive way for our economy, and to do so in a way that again honors our values. We're very prayerful for those who've lost their families, who've lost loved ones, families who are cases now in our country. Again, prayerful for our healthcare providers and first responders in the West. But again, our scientists who are working very hard on this. But it just because we find a cure, and that would be important. It doesn't mean that this all ends. This has had deep impact on our country. But let's hope that that the need doesn't go beyond that. But I don't think we even have enough to go the 3 months right now.
He says this for 3 months, and then they'll have to reassess where to go next. Speaking of the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, he said earlier today that in terms of what New York State will be getting in this package, he says it's a, quote, drop in the bucket. He says New York State needs a lot more. How do you respond to that?
Well, I completely agree with him. The governors need more money. We have $200 billion in our package. They have $150, but neither of those figures is enough to go forward. And I've had the
現金を州政府に落とさんといかんのか。そうか。
and I have great respect
そうか。
for the governor and his taking responsibility for the needs of his state, and I hear that from my own governor in California. In fact, I hear from governors all over the country that they need more resources, and they do. And I hope that the Fed
ナイアガラトリオットニュース。
Chairman Powell has said to me, interest rates are low.
頭半分英語の時におもろいこと言うな。
I say back to him, think big in what you do, because the need is great, and we can't do it only with appropriated dollars. So that in our bill, we enabled the chairman of the Fed and the Fed to be able to do more for municipalities and states as well, and hopefully he will do that. It is it's debilitating to the states. This isn't. They have education and transportation. You know all the responsibilities that a state or municipality is responsible for, including first and foremost meeting the health needs of their the population. But it is they need more. And I don't want to say well, maybe a bit small bucket or a big drop, but it is still several $billions. And at the same time, we'll be giving money for education and transportation, and hospitals get I think it's 130 billion, the final number for hospitals. So entities within these states will be well served, but that doesn't diminish the need for those mayors and the governors to meet their needs in their states as well. And we do have to do more, but that would be no reason to stop this step that we are taking. But we recognize this is bigger than anything we have ever imagined. And I want people to have the confidence that everybody is doing everything possible, hopefully as much as possible in a bipartisan way. Right now, the wrinkle is that the Senate Republicans are saying that they don't want to give $600 to those on unemployment insurance over and above their unemployment insurance benefit. I think that discussion is indicative of what the difference between the two parties. When this bill was introduced by Senator McConnell, it was corporate down. Now it is worker up. And that's the difference between us. And why would the senators hold up this really important bill for the lives and livelihood of the American people? Because they resent people at the low end of the spectrum who have lost their jobs from getting $600.
Yeah, that's 3 or 4 Republican senators are making that threat right now. I know you got to run, but let me ask you a final question, Madam Speaker. What's your message tonight to Americans who are so scared?
野党代表に対してアメリカ国民へのメッセージをと。
Be confident, be positive.
Be confident, be positive.
Believe in America. This is the country we believe in, and we have to be optimistic.
かっこいいな。
But I also believe that they have to understand that this should be science and evidence-based as we go forward. We want to
科学と証拠をベースに物事を進めていきましょうと。
scientific challenge, and we have to think scientifically in how we meet that challenge. I think that we could do better in that regard, but I want them to know that people appreciate the concerns that they have, that are putting aside differences so that we can move forward and wait to fight another day for some priorities we may have, because we understand the urgency. And their priorities, their kitchen table priorities are ours too, and now that's expanded to a health threat. So again, when it comes to health, science, science, science. And I wish that every person in America would subscribe to the fact that science is an answer to our prayers, so that we can get through this in a very
かっこいいな。Science is answer to our prayers.
None of our thoughts or actions are with them.
めちゃめちゃかっこいいな。
To the discussion. Thank you for all the work that you all are doing to make sure public is aware of this, the challenge that it is. But it cannot go away because we wish it away. We can't hope that it goes away. We can hope that it does, but we have to believe in what will really make the difference. In my view, in every way, it should be science and evidence-based, done in a way that it really, truly understands that our economy will come back when our people are well.
Well, what's encouraging, Madam Speaker, you and Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader in the Senate, work together with the Republicans and the President to get this done, and let's make sure it gets done very quickly because there are a lot of people who are in desperate need right now. Madam Speaker, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure in this sad time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
素晴らしい。素晴らしい。
Our Chinese colleagues are very concerned because they went through the entire cycle of the curve to come down.
記者会見に戻りました。
But what they're starting to see as they're relaxing the constraints on travel, that they're getting imported cases, and they wanted to warn us that when we get successful, make sure you very carefully examine how you're going to release the constraints on inputs. So I know we're going to be successful in putting this under control, but I think we're going to have to remember we don't want to import cases in. That's the first thing for today. The second thing that was important
いや、国境封鎖するんですね、やっぱりね。
And that is when you look at the inflection of the curves, we now have multiple different countries that have gone through various phases of their individual outbreaks. And you can learn something from them about where you are in your own outbreak. For example, when China went up, what happened is they just didn't turn around. They went from going to, I'll just take an arbitrary number, 500 new cases a day. The next day it was 1,000 cases, then 1,500, and then 2,000. But once the number of new cases each day starts to flatten out, that's when you get to that point where the inflection goes down.
今何を言ってるかっていうと、毎日毎日数を数えるのが重要だと。いつか必ずその数はフラットになる時が来る。そのフラットになったところで初めて頂点だってことが分かるんだ。だからテストが必要なんだと。
The third and final thing that I think gets back to the question that many of you in the audience have asked of us is about, would this possibly become a seasonal cyclic thing? And I've always indicated to you that I think it very well might. And the reason I say that is that what we're starting to see now in the Southern Hemisphere, in Southern Africa, and in the Southern Hemisphere countries is that we're having cases that are appearing as they go into their winter season.
そうだね。
And if in fact
そうだね。
have a substantial outbreak,
忘れてた。
it will be inevitable that we need to be prepared that we'll get a cycle around the second time. What does that mean for us and what we're doing? It totally emphasizes the need to do what we're doing in developing a vaccine, testing it,
忘れてた。完全に忘れてた。
ready so that we'll have a vaccine available for that next cycle. In addition, to do the randomized controlled trials of drugs so that we will have a menu of drugs that we have shown to be effective
完全に忘れて
and
た。
shown to be safe.
南半球はこれから冬になってひょっとしてこれが季節性のもんだったらあと数ヶ月したら第二の波が南半球で起こるかもわからんと。
I believe will prepare us well.
だからそれに備えとかなきゃいけないんだと。
We'll take a few questions, please. All right, we're going to continue to monitor this briefing over the White House. I want to get some analysis as we do that.
そらそうだ。
You just heard from the Speaker of the House. You heard earlier from the President.
そらそうだ。
Is that as far as this 2 trillion
これがもし冬の季節性のもんであれば我々今から春になるけれども南半球はこれから冬になるからオーストラリアとかアフリカとかサウスアメリカで流行るかもわからん。その時に用意をしとかんといかんのだと。完全に忘れてた。そりゃそうだ。
that what this effectively is a bridge loan to the American people, and that there is no saying that in a few months' time, which is what Mnuchin said that it would last, that they may not be back again to have to deal with it. So it seems to me now that there is a way to work this out, and we can all take some solace in understanding that they are trying to get this voted on. And that they all understand the gravity of the problem.
It's an enormous problem right now. Dr. Patrice Harris is with us as well, the president of the American Medical Association. What jumped at you, Dr. Harris?
Well, certainly we are encouraged to continue to hear that there is a priority for support for personal protective equipment and for tests and for ventilators, again, but for the American Medical Association, our metric will be results, and we need to make sure we get that equipment in the hands of those physicians and nurses and other health professionals on the front line. I continue to hear that physicians and nurses don't have the equipment that they need. They're worried about their own health. They're worried about risk of infection and worried about risk of infecting their families. So that is a very critical point. And of course, we will have an opportunity to review, but it's also important to have support for physician practices. We have to make sure we maintain a vital health system as we make our way through this crisis, but we certainly want to be prepared for the next phase after we flatten the curve of this pandemic.
Do you worry that the president's clear desire to get Americans back at work maybe as early as next week when this 15-day period is over with and maybe see some reopening of much of the country by Easter Sunday? Do you fear that could lead to a resurgence of this pandemic here in the United States?
Well, we have to follow the science and the data, and that
パンデミックって言葉はやっぱりここでも使うよね。自国内でもパンデミックっていうね。
and the data, we will save lives. But if we ignore the science and the data, we will lose lives. So it's not about a particular date. We have to make sure that the data and the science informs our decisions.
What are the most important things do you believe the President of the United States can do right now to make sure Americans are safe from this?
Well, certainly this is an all hands on deck, and we need everyone engaged on an individual level. We need folks to stay home and practice physical distancing. The AMA has asked for the president to enact the Defense Production Act so we can get these supplies in the hands of physicians and nurses and health professionals on the front line. If we really want to flatten the curve to make sure that we have a healthy economy, we have to focus on health. And we have to certainly do all that we can to stop the spread of COVID-19.
Yeah, it's really important. Daniel Dale is still with us, our fact checker. What else jumped out at you, Daniel?
One of the things, Wolf, was how much like his campaign rally rhetoric, Trump's rhetoric at this briefing was, like his rhetoric at previous briefings. We heard him use the phrase big, beautiful wall. We heard him complain of quote-unquote abuse by members of NATO, single out the trade practices of the European Union. And so I think, while there is some important health and medical information being presented at these briefings, especially by people like Dr. Fauci, there's also Trump using this as a political platform to promote the messages that he is not able to promote at rallies because he can't hold rallies right now.
And Gloria, you did hear during the course of the president's statement, his response to questions, he went after the usual suspects, including the news media.
Yeah. Yeah, he went after the news media, making the point that, we'd like to see him do poorly in the election, and so we're rooting against him in this crisis, and that's so ridiculous. We should almost not even dignify it, honestly. One thing that Nancy Pelosi said to you, and I think she was signaling to Donald Trump, was, we can't be too Pollyannish about this, and you have to trust the science. And, every day, what Daniel is saying, the president gets up at the podium, and of course presidents want to give you good news, but he gets up at the podium and he's very self-congratulatory. And today, for example, he said Governor Cuomo is very happy with the ventilators. We'll have to see what Governor Cuomo says about that tomorrow. We've done more testing than anyone. We know that it's not, we know that it's about density. It's not about volume, right? So there are ways he's trying to show the American public, of course, that he's doing a great job. And at one point he said, well, when I'm looking at my notes, he said, it's good to have this group here or you wouldn't even have a country. And I don't know if that's the kind of message you want to give to the American people, but it's all about this sense that I am doing this better than anybody else, and we are doing a great job. And so you have these mixed messages coming from governors and coming from the podium at the White House.
Who do you think he's listening to most in coming up with these concepts?
Well, it's very hard to know. I think he is listening to everyone, and I think he's torn. And one source has told me he's indecisive. But I think he's listening to the scientists who are telling him, we have to look at this curve. We can't get over enthusiastic, even if things start to head in the right direction, as Tony Fauci says. And then he looks to the economists and people at Wall Street who say we've got to reopen this economy. And I think he is reflecting that every single day.
Yeah, and what's significant right now is at least, right now, Democrats and Republicans and the president, they're working together to get this $2 trillion package passed to help the American people. And Gloria, thank you very much. And to our viewers, thanks for watching. Aaron Burnett out front starts right now.
よし、エレンバーネットが始まった。5見せてくるね。ちょっと待っててね。
Out front next, breaking news. Moments ago, President Trump saying some parts of the country may be able to return to work sooner than others. Is that realistic? Plus, cases of coronavirus spiking among New York's first responders as 9/11 calls are also skyrocketing. The commissioner for the New York Fire Department is my guest. And not only are many Americans still not able to get a coronavirus test if they want one, the wait time to get your results can be 7 days. Why were other countries able to get results in a few hours? Let's go out front. And good evening, I'm Erin Burnett. Out front tonight, the breaking news of President Trump holding his coronavirus task force briefing right now. The president floating his latest plan to end the national shutdown.
There are large sections of our country probably can go back much sooner than other sections. And we're obviously looking at that also. People were asking, is that an alternative? And I say absolutely.
Trump also talking about the $2 trillion emergency relief bill that the Senate has been struggling to pass, saying he thinks it will be passed soon and that he'll sign it immediately. Now, all of this happening on what really is the deadliest day of the coronavirus pandemic for the United States. 215 new deaths reported today. At least 11 states now each are reporting more than 100 new cases of coronavirus just today. New York had 5,000 new reported cases. It is still the hardest hit state in the country with nearly half of the national cases. There are more tests in New York, and the majority of the cases are right here in New York City. 177 million Americans are now under stay-at-home orders. Erica Hill begins our coverage out front in New York tonight. And Eric, so many states right now, as we talk about 11 states with 100 or more cases just today, and they need supplies. How are they coping?
They absolutely do. In fact, we even heard from the World Health Organization today saying that there is a critical shortage. There's concern about supplies around the world. Here in the U.S. and here in New York specifically, Governor Andrew Cuomo saying ventilators remain the single greatest need, but add to that, too, the need for tens of thousands of hospital beds. And those are cries that we are hearing from states across the country. A virus that once seemed distant, hitting closer to home with each passing day.
The vast majority of people in our state who have tested positive so far are in their 40s. And we have children as young as 10 months old who have the virus.
Louisiana is showing the highest growth rate for the virus. Governor Edwards warning his state's healthcare facilities could be at capacity by the first week of April. Michigan, one of several states facing a shortage of critical supplies. New Jersey now has the second highest number of cases in the U.S. And in New York, the governor warning the peak in his state, which now has 30,000 confirmed cases, is likely weeks away.
We still have the trajectory going up. We have not turned the trajectory, nor have we hit the apex.
But there are early signs the shelter-in-place orders are easing the strain on hospitals. Still, the state needs tens of thousands of additional hospital beds and ventilators to meet the expected need. And across the country, officials are pleading with retired healthcare professionals to return to work.
God bless them, 40,000 people have signed up as a surge healthcare force. That's a big, big deal because you can create beds, you can find the equipment, you have to have the staff.
The fight against this invisible enemy is increasingly defined by those on the front lines. The exhausted doctors, nurses, and hospital staff working around the clock.
We are terrified. Everybody is terrified. We feel an obligation to take care of our patients. Everybody does. But we don't want to become sick, and we also don't want to become carriers.
For the 900 Americans who have died, their grieving families facing another painful reminder of all that has changed.
And for those who have passed on, their loved ones are now grieving and don't have the opportunity to celebrate their lives with traditional funerals and wakes. Let's send our thoughts, our support, and our prayers to all of these families and their friends.
In Alabama, Emery Grace, just a month old, is now isolated as a precaution after a nurse in the NICU where the baby has been since birth tested positive. Her father telling CNN he felt this moment was inevitable, given the number of people tending to his daughter every day. Aaron, one other need that Governor Cuomo brought up today is the mental health need for folks here in this state and obviously across the country. He talked about the emotional trauma that many people may be experiencing as their lives are changing so rapidly. And here in New York, a hotline has been set up, and the governor says some 6,000 mental health professionals have now volunteered to staff that hotline to help people.
All right, Erica, thank you very much. And you know, we're going to hear shortly from that emergency room nurse that you just saw in Erica's piece, the one who said healthcare workers are terrified. She'll be on this program in just a few moments. I want to go now, though, to Dr. Sanjay Gupta and Dr. William Shafter, who is the former CDC official and professor of infectious diseases now at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. I appreciate both your time. So, Sanjay, the president, you know, sort of floating this idea now of ending the shutdown in stages, you know, that in some places you would just reopen for business and other places it might take a little longer. Would that work?
Well, I mean, you know, one of the things people have to keep in mind is that, you know, we don't really know how widespread this virus is. I mean, and that sort of makes sense if you say, hey, look, this virus is really only present in certain parts of the country and not present at all in other parts of the country. I don't think we just know the answer to that, because even though the testing has improved, there's still a lot of places around the country where they still have done inadequate testing. And part of the reason we're seeing such high numbers in New York is because it is spreading there, but also because they've done a lot more testing. So I don't know. I would also remind, you know, Aaron, something that we've talked about, that, you know, young people are at risk of you know, carrying this virus and spreading it to others, and also of getting sick. It is true that they are far less likely to die, which is good, but the idea that they can just go back to work and not potentially add to the problem, I don't think is true. So Dr. Fauci says we'll have to look at the data, and the data will change.
So, you know, I'm going to ask you about this, Dr. Schefter. Dr. Fauci did say yesterday that part of the problem is we don't know what we don't know, because this country has done a terrible job at testing up to this point. So there are certain regions where you don't see a lot going on, and that maybe is because nothing is going on, or it may be because we're not testing to see what is going on. You know, but the president tonight said that where we're not seeing numbers, it's because there's no problem. Here he is.
Many states that I'm talking about, they don't have a problem. We have some big problems, but it's confined to certain areas, high-density areas. So why would we test the entire nation, 350 people? With that being said, I'm going to say it again. We tested far more than anybody else. We have the ability to test. I mean, we've come a long way from an obsolete, broken system that I inherited. We have now tested with the best test far more than anybody else.
Several questions from that, but Dr. Schefter first, this point, when he says, many states that I'm talking about, they don't have a problem. We have big problems, but they're confined to certain areas, high-density areas. Do we know that to be true?
We're not certain about that at all, Erin. You know, we have some hot spots, we have some warm spots, and we have some other spots, such as Nashville, that's warming up. I'm sure that this virus is just about everywhere, but how dense it is, how widespread it is, we don't know yet. We haven't tested sufficiently. If we could test a lot more, we would have a much better idea of how distributed this virus is.
Right, I mean, so you can't say it's not there if you haven't been looking for it. I mean, Sanjay, the other question is, what the president said there, he also said we wouldn't want to test everybody. Why would we test 350 million people? I understand you don't need to test 350 million people to know how many of them have it, right? That is what, you know, statistics are for. But you do need to test a lot more than you've been testing, and you do need to test a lot more than sick people, which is really the extent of who has been tested in this country, right?
Yeah, no question. I mean, look, you know, to give you a sort of context, you know, for the seasonal flu in any given year, we may say, you know, 30 million people had the seasonal flu, but fewer than 100,000 tests were performed, just for the reason you said, Erin. I mean, they use all these different metrics to try and figure out just how widespread the flu is. This is different. This is a brand new virus, and it's still important to identify people who are positive and be able to isolate them and then find out who they came in contact with. That's getting increasingly challenging, obviously, in areas where the virus is very widely spread and it's very dense, but it's still, you know, important to do that. Because we haven't had adequate testing, I mean, look, we're not nowhere close to really getting to the surveillance part of things right now. In fact, the people are being told not to even get a test unless they have symptoms. So that's a ways down the road still, but you're absolutely right. We do need to really broaden testing. Maybe not 350 million people, clearly not, but you know, to get a statistical relevance here, a lot more needs to be done.
Right, especially because on the Diamond Princess, Dr. Schaffner, which is the one sort of, you know, perfect zone you have in the sense of people were stuck there and everybody was tested. So you were tested whether you had it or not. Half the people who had it had no symptoms. So, I mean, we don't know if that's true across the general population, but if it were to be true, the incidence of this could be way higher. I mean, it has immense implications for a lot of things, including how many people are sick, what your fatality rate is, how long the country should stay closed, whether social distancing is working, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You know, people have gotten the information that you can spread this virus even though you have minimal or no symptoms. So there are a lot of people out there who would like to be tested just on those grounds because they're concerned for their own families and other people they come in contact with. And of course, this expectation has been raised because people have been told if you want to test, you can get it. So for public health reasons, that's the main reason we want to test, as well as for clinical reasons, so we can take good care of patients and healthcare providers can use the appropriate protective equipment.
So Sanjay, the other question I have here is what's wrong with the U.S. testing system at this point? I mean, there's several questions there, but the one that I want to ask about is the time, right? I mean, I know people, I have friends who've had this. By the time they were identified as being worthy of getting a test, it then took several days to get the test, and then it took 7 days to get the test back. And in one of those instances, it was a positive. So in all that time, that person, of course, was self-quarantining, thank goodness. But I mean, how in the world can it be taking 7 days to get these tests back when we hear about 3-hour test results in other places?
Yeah, I mean that's not acceptable. I mean, clearly the test itself, like if you're in the lab and you have the specimen and you're going to get the result back, is hours. Typically around 6 hours is what I've heard. But as technology improves, even around this testing, you can shorten that time. Everything else is, if the place where your person got tested doesn't have a laboratory on premises, it has to be sent out. Many of these places that are receiving the specimens, they're starting to get a lot of specimens now. You're hearing about the testing ramping up, but that can slow things down as well in terms of getting results. But you're right. I mean, 7 days is not acceptable because that person who doesn't know, thankfully your friend quarantined, but if they didn't, that would be a source of increased spread. One thing, if I can just add as well, Aaron, the Diamond Princess, which was a really interesting point that you brought up, about half the people who tested positive did not have symptoms. Within a period of time, several of them did develop symptoms. So in the end, about 18% of people did not have symptoms. Point is this, that even if you don't have symptoms now, it can take up to a couple of weeks to develop symptoms. It shouldn't, I'm not trying to scare people, but just keep that in mind. We're still early days. You're thinking, I'm totally fine, I have no exposure, I feel great, and I hope you stay that way, but it can take a while to develop these symptoms as well.
Right, and people should know, and during all that time, you can be spreading the virus, and I guess some studies have shown perhaps, even more virus present in your system right before you have all those obvious symptoms. You can really be infecting others. Thank you both very much. I appreciate your time. And next, a nurse on the front lines of the battle against coronavirus calls her experience in the ER terrifying, and she joins me next. Plus, New York police officers and firefighters, lots of them are infected with coronavirus. They have gotten those tests back. They are positive as emergency calls for help in the nation's biggest city are surging. The commissioners of New York's fire department is out front, and trillions of dollars for an economic stimulus package. But is this just the tip of the iceberg?
In the past, business leaders have felt that their job is, to worry about the next quarter's earnings, to worry about the shareholders, and then to leave governments and social sectors to worry about. If we can actually now bring more and more and more entrepreneurs and business leaders into the fold and actually tackling issues, I think we can get on top of the problems of the world much quicker.
For somebody to tell you their story, it's something I take really seriously. It's not something you can just parachute in and ask somebody to open their heart to you. To peel away the layers and to get to the heart of the person who you're telling a story about.
France will never give up against the terrorists.
And beneath the surface of what's happening, you can hear their story, and you're going to do their story justice. You have to show yourself to them.
So right now they're hovering pretty low over this area that's extensively flooded.
It's the right place to tell their story.
よいしょ、戻りました。反対分け目を変えたんですよ、昨日から髪の毛の。よいしょ。 分け目を変えたんです。着物の合わせと同じ分け目にしたんです。着物と合わせと普段は別に構わないけど、こうカメラ越しに見ると着物の合わせと分け目が合ってないとすごい違和感あるんですよね。And meanwhile, さっきエレン・バーネットはニューヨークの消防士と警官に感染者が増えてるって話してましたね。Meanwhile, at the Japanese television,
皆さんが少しでも元気になっていただければという企画でございます。
そうですか。お母さんと一緒。志村けんが肺炎。
自粛の要請が出るのかなと思ってたので、ちょっと遅いなと。先週の花見の前ぐらいにも。
着物の合わせとね、なんで米朝首相の七三があんなにしっくりくるのかなって。米朝首相の七三って着物の合わせと合ってるのよね。現場の現業の人が増えてるってのはもうしゃあないですね。もうそろそろ落ちますけど、僕もコーヒーあと一杯でコーヒー飲んだら落ちますが、ほんまにちょっと今日やらなあかんことぎょうさんな。やばいな。明日休まれへんからな。イングリッシュ。今ね、何してるかっていうと、英語でオーバーシュートって言葉を調べようと思ってて。English in United States。エスパニョールじゃないよ。イングリッシュ、パキスタンじゃないよ。ナイジェリアじゃないよ。English in United States。English United States course in and overshoot。キャピタルパースペクティブ、マーケッツオーバーシュート。東京ガマナアージス、東京、ジャパン、ロイター、ガンオジャパンキャピタルユーゼージコーポレーションとアボイドシティロックダウン、小池、トゥーストゥースエコノミー職人レイトカット。 日本のオーバーシュートって、オーバーシュート in healthcare spending a chronic problem。やっぱオーバーシュートって日本語でしかないな。Biz News. Morgan Stanley says it may be time to buy a Corona Wales oil butter markets. じゃあということでエクスクルーシブビズニュースログインしたで読めないな。405,000 people sign up for absolutely crucial NHS volunteer army。でもオーバーシュートなんて言葉使わないよ。Nothing is working now. What next, America? お金の話ばっかりやな。It will get better, but after we feel even more unsettled. Flights suspended at the Istanbul airport after planned overshoot. January 7th. Flights suspended at the Istanbul airport after plane overshoot. Flights at Istanbul Sabiha Gökçen Airport were suspended until 17 GMT on Tuesday after Pegasus plane overshot the runway on landing and became stuck in soft ground, airport officials said. ロイターの記事が一番わかりやすいんじゃないかな。これが航空機事故だけどね、これ。Where did it go? ここだ。Fuck。これなんで Google マップが開くの？なんで Google マップが開くの？今ね、Google のね、Google ニュースのアメリカ版の Google ニュースを使ってオーバーシュートって言葉を検索してみたのね。それをここに貼り付けますね。あ、1文字足んない。 と待って、ツイッターに書いとくね。2、3。ちなみに辞書ではどうなってるかな。俺オックスフォード貸してんだったっけな。もう全部子供に本を持っていかれるんだよね。不便だなこれ。あれオックスフォードどこ行ったっけ。オックスフォードがない。あれオックスフォードがない。なんでオックスフォードがないの。あれなんでオックスフォードない。仕事にならないじゃん。よくないね。ないね。基礎資料である英辞典がないくせにこんなんはあるというね。右翼辞典なんかいらんちゅう。あれ俺やっぱ持っていきよったんかあいつ。めんどくさいな。めんどくさい。あめんどくさい。ないもんはしゃあない。うんうんうん あら、どこ行ったんだろう。嫌になっちゃうわ。嫌になっちゃうな。嫌になっちゃうな。でも確かにオーバーシュートなんて日本語英語聞いたことがない僕は。これまでね、僕のボキャブラリーが少ないのかもわからんけども。お湯沸いた。コーヒー。 温まりましたな。よいしょ。I have to follow this Saitama's hours. I live near a popular Hanami party spot and there were more people than I was expected to see. Won't be shocked if there are a bunch of people, new people with symphonies 2 weeks from now. そりゃそうだよね。そりゃそうよね。Go past an independent stopping and turning point in adversary. The overshoot there indeed decision. With object, go past.何してんだろうね。コーヒーね、お湯沸いたと思ったらね、お湯沸きすぎててね、水がなくなってたんで、やかんの中で。今もっぺん沸かしてます。すみません、待ってください。今コーヒー入れますね。And overshoot. In signal processing, control theory, electronics and mathematics, overshoot is the occurrence of the signal of function exceeding its target. 目標があってそれを超えるってことね。It arises especially in the stress response behind limited systems such as low-pass filters. It is often followed by ringing, and at the time of conflated with the letters. Maximum overshoot is defined in Katsuhiko Ogata's discrete control system. The maximum peak value of the response curve measured from the desired response of the system. リレーレッドコンセプト as closely related phenomenon is ringing. When the following overshoot a signal that falls below its stated state value and they may bounce back above, taking some time to settle close to its stated state value. This later time is called as settle time. In ecology, overshoot is an analogous concept where a population exceeds the carrying capacity of the system. あうん、頭がねぐちゃぐちゃです、うん、ああだからそうだからやっぱり信号学の話だからこうなってだからオシロスコープとか綺麗な波形よくオーディオ雑誌でさ音の綺麗さを表すのにその壁のコンセントから入ってくる電流の波形を計測するのがあるじゃない。あれでその綺麗な波形をこうやってこうするといい音だけどこんなんだったらダメよっていう時のあれのオーバーシュートね。Lockdown, but Japan was doing so well banning all immigrants. I wonder what happened this week that the number of got more expressive suddenly, maybe. こういう闇大好き。うん。ロシア語読めません。読めません。雨が降ったらお別れなのね。今さっき俺が笑ったのはこのツイートです。ディリリリディリリリリリリリリリリリリリリリリリ違う歌になっとるかな。いやいこうお湯沸いてるなこれな。このツイートで笑いました。ナイスです。これナイスです。 よいしょ。はい。お湯はオーバーシュートしてませんでした。大丈夫です。ちょっと台所をちゃちゃっと片付けてました。てかさ、もうみんな会社行くのやめよう。会社行くのやめよう。ほんま。休もう。そんなん避けられない出張って、そんななんかデリヘルみたいなこと言うたらあかん。俺着物よう似合うな。しかしほんまに思わへん。いやほんまに俺ほんま着物よう似合うな。洋服なんか着やんようになって正解やったわほんまに。ショートだね。トゥルトゥルトゥルトゥルルルルルルルルルルルルルルルルこれ今 YouTube の流してるからさ、 YouTube だったらさあれなのよね、あれなんですよ。What I'm gonna do was もう8時9時でしょ。そろそろもっぺん始まるよね。ここまでやって俺の朝が終わるんですよ最近ね、ずっとね。What I'm gonna do was あれなんで来ないの。来たかなこれで。んどうした。なんでだこれ。なんかおかしいテレビが。テレビがおかしい。
Not something I control. The thing that I can control is our innovation and the opportunity we create around innovation.
For somebody to tell you their their story, it's something I take really seriously. It's not something you can just parachute in and ask somebody to open their heart to you. To peel away the layers, to get to the heart of the person who you're telling a story about.
France will never give up against the terrorists.
And delve beneath the surface of what's
でこれで9時でしょ。
You can hear their story, and you're going to do their story justice. You have to show yourself to them.
So right now they're hovering pretty low.
またアンダーソン・クーパーなんですよ。アンダーソン・クーパーの入り口だけちょっと見て。アンダーソン・クーパーが今日何をやるかを見て。まあ人間ってクズが多いね。本当に。今日はもう国会な、このままやる国会中継やってもええけど、死ぬで俺。ここで銭もろてもね、俺そんな、俺死ぬで俺ほんま。昨日のまだ回復してへんねんから俺。
Tonight, a new normal in the city that never sleeps. Here's Jimmy.
The first thing I notice these days when I open my eyes in my Manhattan apartment is that there is no traffic noise, because there is no traffic. No commuters from New Jersey, no trucks, no beeping horns. Don't be afraid of anyone. No one to be afraid of on 42nd Street. You know that cliche when things are crowded, people say, oh, it's like Grand Central? This is Grand Central.
うわすげえ、グランドセントラル駅誰もいない。
Central, but not so grand. Guys, do you mind if I take a picture of your sign? Okay? Coronavirus. I drink mine with a shot of Lyme disease. Boy, when guys asking for money on the street work coronavirus into their pitch, you know it's entered the nation's bloodstream. Yeah, if you don't mind. Staying apart is the best way to stay united. Thank you, healthcare workers. Tough times don't last, tough people do. So this is a line for Whole Foods in Midtown. They're letting people in a couple of the
すげえ、行列も間隔空けてる。
part everyone stands on the line. Have you ever seen a line like this before? Even Ralph Cramden, Jackie Gleason from the Honeymooners is wearing a mask. Which makes sense, he was a bus driver. Oh, that's Cramden. Social distancing, Honeymooners style.
If you see me coming down the street, get on the other side. When you come down the street, there ain't no other side.
And thanks so much for joining us. Anderson starts now.
はあ。
Good evening. This was the deadliest single day of the coronavirus outbreak in this country.
もう完全にやっぱり今週っていうか先週の中頃から CNN は戦争と同じ報道体制になってますね。 構成的に言うと。
Despite evidence, as we'll tell you about in a moment, that in New York, hardest hit of all so far, staying at home appears to may be working. Though he did not briefly at tonight's task force briefing to social distancing, he kept returning, the president did, to the notion of a quick reboot in the workplace, with a rather jarring twist. He signaled at first in a tweet this afternoon, claiming that the media is hyping the pandemic to hurt his election chances. He was then asked about it at the briefing.
Mr. President, you tweeted earlier linking the closing of the country to your election success in November. Is this Easter timeline based on your political interests?
What do you mean
Because
by election success? No.
you said that the media wants the country to remain closed to hurt your
No, I think the media, the media would like to see me do poorly in the election. I think.
Lawmakers and economists on both sides of the aisle have said that reopening the country by Easter is not a good idea. What is that plan based on?
Just so you understand. Are you ready? I think there are certain people that would like it not to open so quickly. I think there are certain people that would like it to do financially poorly because they think that would be very good as far as defeating me at the polls. And I don't know if that's so, but I do think it's so that that there are people in your profession that would like that to happen. I think it's very clear. I think it's very clear that there are people in your profession that write fake news. You do. She does. There are people in your profession that write fake news. They would love to see me for whatever reason, because we've done one hell of a job. Nobody's done the job that we've done. And it's lucky that you have this group here right now for this problem, or you wouldn't even have a country left.
The president tonight, he also said, and I'm quoting now, "It's hard not to be happy with the job we're doing, that I can tell you." Just for perspective, I want to take you back only 48 hours ago. When we came to Monday night, the number of people testing positive for the coronavirus stood at just about 40,000. Last night, after the president said he'd like to have the country, quote, raring to go by Easter, it was about 52,000. Tonight, it's
おかしいはずはねじれてた。
1,000. More than 30,000 of those cases are in New York, with about 18,000 in New York City alone. And officials here say the caseload could still be several weeks away from peaking. Now, you may recall 2 months and a day ago, the president tweeted, quote, "The coronavirus is very much under control in the USA. We are in contact with everyone in all relevant countries. CDC and World Health have been working hard and very smart. Stock market starting to look very good to me." Well, 2 months later, more than 65,000 confirmed cases. It is clearly not under control. More than 900 people have now died. New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo, however, did have some welcome news. He said that social distancing efforts may be working. He says they cut the growth in the number of people having to be hospitalized by more than half. Sunday, he said, the hospitalization rate was estimated to be doubling every 2 days. Today, he says it's down to every 4.7 days.
今日は帯が決まらん日ですな。
Shortage of ventilators in New York. Governor Cuomo says he needs 30,000. The federal government is sending 4,000. Governor says the state has about 4,000 before the crisis began and has bought another 7,000, which still leaves New York 15,000 short. As a consequence, in at least one hospital that we know of, they're experimenting with using one ventilator for 2 patients. And this is not just a New York story. Louisiana this afternoon reporting an additional 407 confirmed infections and 19 deaths, and that number rising. Overseas, Spain's death toll topped China's today. A top American military medical officer today said the Pentagon's modeling shows the pandemic will likely keep growing over the next 3 weeks.
ほら、アメリカ人も国内の流行のことをパンデミックって言ってるよ。
3-week perspective based on the planning factors that we have, we think that we're going to continue to see this, no surprise, continue to grow. And what I would ask for everyone's help with is worry about today. Because if we stop doing the right thing today because we think something's going to happen in 4 weeks, we will make this worse.
Well, also today, well-known Republican economist Mark Zandi warned about the risk of prematurely restarting the economy, telling CNN Business, quote, "If the president decides to go 180 on us and open by Easter, that will create chaos and confusion. That is the prescription for a depression." Zandi, John McCain's former top economic advisor, added, quote, "It's a massive gamble and one without science on its side." And on that tonight, and on the economic relief bill, which the president today said he's eager to sign, Senator Bernie Sanders is raising objections to that. He joins us shortly as well. I want to start things off right now with Senior Jim Acosta at the White House with late reporting. So, Jim, the president keeps saying the country needs to get back to work. Probably everybody agrees with that. Sooner rather than later, the president says. He's not providing any medical data that would indicate it's a safe idea or discussing how the elderly and the most vulnerable would still be protected with others going back to work.
Right. That's right. We got none of those details, Anderson. The president was pushing to reopen the country a lot faster than these public experts would like to see, but we saw almost immediately Dr. Anthony Fauci, the top doctor on the coronavirus task force, pushing back on this, saying that this virus could be hitting the United States in cycles, and talking about what's been happening in China, that as they've been getting the virus under control, they've been relaxing travel restrictions and seeing the virus come back into their country via travelers who are going to China. One thing I will say, Anderson, is we did get some useful information from the Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, on this stimulus bill. He said that if the stimulus bill is signed pretty quickly, and we believe it will, that it will inject enough money into the economy to keep it afloat for about 3 months. But it's going to take about 3 weeks at least for Americans to receive those stimulus checks in the mail. Anderson, as you know, covering natural disasters and so on.
すげえな、CNN は3週間じゃ遅いっつってるよ。
That is an excruciating period of time. As for the president, we heard him
肩ばさみにした。めんどくさいから。はあ。
He was talking about his wall on the border. No details about how he would reopen the country before Easter. We didn't get any details on that. I will tell you, Anderson, that moment that he had when he was talking about the press, I think revealed that he is thinking about how this virus is affecting his re-election chances. And I talked to a Trump surrogate this evening who said that's exactly what he is saying, that he's already thinking about how this outbreak, how this pandemic might affect things in November. And in the words of this Trump surrogate who I spoke with earlier this evening, this was essentially the president playing the victim in all of this. Anderson?
Jim Acosta. Jim, thanks very much. Despite New York's Governor Cuomo's welcome news that social distancing may be flattening the growth somewhat in the new cases of virus, the state, especially the city of New York, remain the focal point of the outbreak at this moment. Joining us right now is the mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio. Mayor, how is New York City doing tonight in terms of medical supplies and case numbers? Last time we talked, you talked in alarming ways about the shortage.
Anderson, when we last talked, we were just days away from some of our hospitals not having the basics to even be able to treat people. And, you know, I think it was important to tell that truth, and I hope it helped to wake up Washington. Now, finally, we have gotten, especially those ventilators that we need the most, and a lot of other supplies in, but only to get us through this week into next week. That's the way, that's the time horizon we're dealing with right now. I can tell you I'm pretty confident about our hospital's ability to handle this crisis this week, with already now, it's astounding, 18,000 cases confirmed as of earlier today. But going into next week, we're going to feel more and more stress on our system. And Anderson, it's not just about equipment, it's also about the people we need, the personnel. And I fear that if the military doesn't get involved quickly, because they have a lot of great medical personnel and they can help personnel get moved from one part of the country to another, if they don't get involved very rapidly, we're going to have a problem up ahead, as are other parts of the country, if they don't have that kind of command and control the military brings to get people, get resources where they're needed most.
他やる
Talk about, you know, the ICU beds, needing more ICU beds. It's not the physical bed, it's the care that goes with those beds, the nurses, the doctors. Same with the ventilators. You have to have enough people to operate the ventilators with all those ventilators. So it is, you know, are we still seeing large numbers of medical personnel coming down with this virus?
Yeah, Anderson, first of all, you're exactly right. It's actually a package. And, you know, the bed's the easy part. It's ventilators, it's surgical masks and other supplies, and it's a trained professional. You need the whole package to have an ICU bed. We are concerned about how many people are contracting the disease. I mean, I've been honest with New Yorkers. Probably before this is over, half of all New Yorkers, if not more, will contract this disease. Thank God 80% of them will have a very mild experience. You know, even a lot of the folks we're talking about, the healthcare workers, if they're younger, if they're healthy, they'll probably miss work for a week, 10 days, and come back. But at any given point, a lot of them will be out. So that adds stress, which is why we must have some source of additional professionals soon coming in from other parts of the country. Again, there's no organization that's going to make that happen, short of the military. But as you know, Anderson, the military are essentially staying at the bases. I don't think they want to. I think they want to join the fight. But President Trump hasn't given that order.
Governor Cuomo said today that the projected rate of hospitalizations is slowing down. Quote, the evidence, he said, suggests that the density control measures may be working. Does that line up with what you're seeing in the city?
Yeah, it's a hopeful sign, Anderson. And look, there's more social distancing than we've ever experienced, obviously, in the history of this city because the schools are closed. The vast majority of workplaces that are non-essential, of course, are closed. People are only, allowed to go out briefly to the grocery, the pharmacy, a little bit of exercise, and basically, overwhelmingly, New Yorkers are staying indoors. So that's a whole lot of social distancing. The truth is, we've had a few days of seeing that improvement. So I want to be careful before we assume it's working deeply, but it is certainly a good sign. And boy, let me tell you, I've heard from my police commissioner. I mean, our officers are out all over parks, all over streets, and what they're seeing generally is people have gotten the message, and they're generally, if there's a group congregating, they're told to split up. They split up quickly. People are reminded, stay 6 feet apart. They're taking it seriously. So I think most New Yorkers really get it at this point.
President Trump said tonight that he spoke to you about the amount of ventilators sent to New York. He said you were, quote, very happy, and that it's, quote, hard not to be happy with the job we're doing, end quote. Do you agree?
I would say it differently, to say the least, Anderson. Look, I spoke to the president a couple of times. And I do appreciate those ventilators because for us, Anderson, it is literally going to be hand to mouth. We are going to get a ventilator in, and it's going to go right to a hospital. And I think about ventilators,
これでできるかもな。ちょっとチェックしてみましょう。はい。
to them, get them to the ventilator. If a hospital is even missing a few that they need, they're going to lose lives who could have been saved. So of course I'm happy when 400 came in during the week and 2,000 more are coming. But I also told the president we're going to need a lot more of that. And we're going to need the personnel. And we're going to need to go through not just weeks. I told New Yorkers honestly, I think April will be worse than March, and I fear that May actually will be worse than April. I don't think this is just a few weeks. I don't think we're going to be okay by Easter. I think it's going to go substantially past that just by the numbers we're seeing alone.
Yeah, Eric Blasio, I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Anderson.
I want to bring in our medical and public health team now. Joining us tonight, Senior Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta, also emergency room physician and former Baltimore Health Commissioner Dr. Alina Wan. Sanjay, Governor Cuomo saying you heard from the mayor saying hospitalization rates going down in New York, or somewhat, or at least not rising at the rate that they were, heading in the right direction. Does that give you some hope?
Yeah, I think for sure, Anderson, it does provide some hope and maybe a little bit of proof that the social distancing measures that people are talking about work. Sometimes it's hard to convince people of that. I think of this, when you think about the numbers, the metaphor, instead of thinking about a car that's sort of speeding up or slowing down, think of this more like a big ship. It's got inertia. It may be going a certain speed, but it's got inertia. So you got to slowly bring that down. That just takes some time. These are
機材が届いたのでできるかも。
early numbers.
できるかもよ。
It's a hopeful trend for sure so far.
できるかもよ。
Dr. Wan, I mean, if that is in fact the case in New York, what does it mean going forward? And how much stock should we put in these projections at this point?
Well, I hope that what we're seeing in New York actually holds up. I'm worried about New York. I'm also worried about the next state, the next hotspot too. And because we're lacking data, because of lack of testing, we really don't know how close we are to, frankly, to catastrophe in other places too. We do know that we are just so underprepared as a country, and I'm still hearing healthcare workers from all over the country pleading because, frankly, they feel like they're being sacrificed. They feel like they just don't have the protections.
Let me ask you about that, Dr. Wan, because the president is saying, well, look, you look at a number of states, and they don't really have many cases, and those states maybe could come online faster. People can go back to work in those states faster. Are you saying they just haven't had enough testing to know what's there?
We just don't know. We are flying in the dark, blind here, because we have not done the testing to see how many asymptomatic people are out there who are currently transmitting the disease, how all these people who are being told to go home and rest if they just have mild symptoms. We don't know how many of them actually have COVID-19. And I'm afraid that we're missing actually a lot of hotspots all over the country. And because there's a lag between when somebody gets coronavirus and when they exhibit symptoms and then get really ill. We could be weeks behind. And I'm afraid that that's what's been happening all along. We've been responding to what's happened 2 or 3 weeks ago instead of んじゃね。
来ねえのおかしくね。いやおいや。来た来た来た来た。で、こっち音が出てたね。ごめんよ。よいしょ。
It may be that one of these viruses that likes cooler weather, and there's all sorts of reasons for that. So, in a way, that would be good. I mean, that really helps obviously flatten this curve that we're talking about because there'll be fewer cases. But I think your point, Anderson, that it also means it'll come back at some point is also true. Hopefully,
来たー。
Yeah, Sanjay, stay with us, Dr.
来た来た来た来た来た来た来た来た来た来た来た来た。何を買ったかは申し上げられませんが、これでNHK を入れるとNHK を入れてみるとどうなるか。Here we go。熱い。これで NHK 入れたらどうなる？
嗅覚がなくなった可能性がある。新型コロナウイルス感染症で
あら、完璧にできてます。完璧にできてます。
さあ、鞍馬山を降りて次の場所へ向かいましょう。川が見えてきました。貴船川です。実は京都市内を流れる鴨川の源流の一つです。
ちょっと待って、カメラを変えました。
京都の人々にとって大事な水源地。
これをモニターの上に置きたいんです。なんとかしてね。
その水を守ってきたのが貴船神社です。水は濁ってはいけないので、神社の名前は貴船。その言われはミステリアスです。
その言われはミステリアスです。
宮司さんが案内してくれたのは、
その言われはミステリアスです。これ SD カードね。電源はどれ？
牛舎って言いまして、牛舎と書いてあるんですが、実はここは牛儀というね、神社ができる以前にここの山に降りて神様と一緒に降りてこられた、神様でして、その方はやがて代々貴船の神様に仕える神 神主家に変わっていたと。
記録によると神主家の一つは元は鬼だったとも。童子と書かれているのは鬼を指していると言われています。
そうそう、なんか味覚と嗅覚がなくなるらしいよね。
その鬼が仕えたのが貴船神社の水の神様、高尾神の神です。そのためここの水は御神水と言われています。そんな貴船神社、占いの水にちなんだものです。おみくじを水に浮かべると文字が浮き出る水占い。
素晴らしいんじゃないでしょうか。
吉なれと盗難に注意ですよ。思いのままなるべし。嬉しい。嬉しい。よっ。でも旅行よろしく。
本宮を抜けて奥に進むと料理旅館が並びます。
完璧じゃないですか、左右が。たまたまやからそこまで調べてなかったけど。
旅館のおすすめは貴船の水を生かした料理です。ご主人の鳥居博之さん、代々料理旅館を営んできました。
その水の硬さといい、含まれているミネラルもね、そういうのもちょうどいい優しいお味になりますから、この水やからこの料理になるし、こういうメニュー考えるしっていうことになりますし、非常にありがたいですね。
そんな貴船の水を生かした人気メニューが松茸の土瓶蒸し。松茸とだしの香りが絶妙に調和した風味豊かな一品です。
今カメラの設定をしています。
ここは
26。
貴船神社の最終地点。神社の水が御神水と言われる起源となった場所です。あらたかスポット、奥宮です。ここにあるのは流血。雨を司る龍神が住まうとされる穴です。人目に触れぬよう流血の真上に社が建てられ、大切に守られてきました。平安時代には勅使がたびたび山門の軌道に来たといいます。京文化を生んだ水の源流がここにありました。ここは貴船神社から15キロ。整備された並木が続きます。こちらは北山杉。国宝や世界遺産の建築に使われてきた高級 系木材です。その歴史は700年。木の上で作業している人がいます。小島史郎さん。北山杉を手入れして50年のベテラン職人です。
もうちょっと引こうか。
木の高さはどれも10メートルを超えています。
これ引きすぎかもわからんけど、でもこれぐらいよね。
この作業は
でだ。
まっすぐな木を育てるために
でだ。
欠かせません。
でだ。
枝を落とすたびに揺れる木の上。大変な作業です。
でだ。
切り口が少しでも残るとその価値は半減するそうです。そのため枝打ちは熟練の技がいるといいます。
中やとどうしてもきれいに抜けない。釜で打ったみたいです。だからこういうような感じでやるときれいにする。つるんとした北山杉にやろう思ったらなかなかその傷口が大きいとなかなか埋まらない。
さらに美しい木肌を作るため皮を剥ぐ作業も独特の方法です。水圧で皮を剥いでいきます。
なぜ来ない。
木を植えてから40年。手間暇かけてようやく製品になります。千利休が建てた茶室、国宝の大安や桂離宮にも使用されています。
なぜ来ない。
美しい木肌を残すため
が来ないね。なぜ来ないかな。
スパイクを使わず木を包み込むように登ることができる優れものです。一本作業を終えるとそのまま次の木へ。小島さんは1日に50本以上の木を枝打ちします。誰も真似できない職人技の極みです。最近北山杉は観賞用の庭木としても注目を集めています。それがこの北山大杉。細い木がまっすぐ伸びる独特の形が人気です。
こうなってるはずなんだけどな。なんで出ない。画像が出ない。
切り落とした枝の根元にまっすぐな木を差しします。 名建築を生み出した北山杉でした。奈良時代創建の高山寺。
音マシになった？
この日集まっていたのはとある業界の人たちです。
言ってたよ。
祈りを捧げているのは明恵上人です。
言ってたよ。やっぱ OBS の問題なんや。
実はある教文化と深い関わりがあります。
OBS の問題ね。
それは何
エコーがきつい。あ、エコーがきついはず。ちょっと待ってな。それはエコーがきついはず。3やな。
お茶。
これでどう？俺の声エコーしないんじゃない？これで。ちょっと待って。大丈夫でしょ？大丈夫でしょ？エコーしないでしょこれで。ね？これでエコーしない。エコーしない。で、これでエコーしなくて。これでエコーしなくて。なんで入らへんの？入ってて。これでエコーしなくて。
As we reported earlier, Dr. Anthony Fauci says tonight we need to be ready for another cycle of the coronavirus. He now believes it could become a seasonal virus. The message from my next guest is please stay home and help fight this pandemic. Jen Wadeka has paid a terrible price. 2 family members diagnosed with coronavirus. Her grandfather, Ralph Amato, a Korean War veteran, has died. Her mother, Karen, fortunately released from the emergency room. Karen can't attend the funeral of her father. She has to say goodbye via an iPad as she's under quarantine. Jen Wadeka joins me now. Jen, I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm glad your mom is out of the emergency, out of the hospital. First of all, how is your mom doing?
You know, my mom is making progress, thank goodness, but she's not there yet. She's on day 13 right now of having a consecutive fever. She's experienced all the symptoms that are associated with the virus, except for a sore throat. So she's getting there, but she's not there yet.
And what's it been like for your dad to be taking care of your mom while she has the virus?
It's been really stressful on my father. You know, not only is he taking care of my mother, but he's also just monitoring himself to make sure that he doesn't begin to show symptoms as well. My parents have a very strict protocol in place for how they're interacting with each other. So for instance, when my father brings food to my mother, he puts on a mask and gloves, brings it to the door, and then goes downstairs, and then she will open the door and retrieve it. All of her dishes go in the dishwasher. The laundry, he's wearing gloves, he's washing everything in hot water and then disinfecting the laundry basket. We've even put a camera in her room so we can monitor her at night and make sure that, you know, when she's sleeping, she's doing okay. And then, of course, all of us are checking in on her multiple times a day, FaceTiming just to get eyes on her to make sure she's making a speedy recovery.
Yeah. Tell me about your grandfather. I mean, he just sounds like an incredible guy.
He was an amazing human being. He was a loving grandfather. He was independent and a healthy 91-year-old. He was a Korean War veteran who was proud to have served his country. He was extremely active in the Veteran Foreign Affairs, Post 5481 in Montville, New Jersey. And most importantly, he just enjoyed being with his family. His latest passion was spending time with my two children and his great-grandchildren, Molly and Cooper.
I mean, what a blessing that he was able to spend time with his great-grandchildren. I mean, that's incredible. And for you to have him in your life is just extraordinary.
It has been. I mean, I've had 36 wonderful years of him in my life, and he's seen me, you know, from grow up and been through the tough times and the good times, and I will always
どうよ
remember
これ
him
で
and love him dearly. And
これでどうよでこうすると俺は画面を見ながら喋れるんです
You know, who are out there who, you know, are obviously worried about this happening or think, you know, that this may not happen to them.
画面を見ながら喋るんですこれで
Yeah, you know, my message for everybody
どうよ
watching tonight is that
画質の向上が叶ったんじゃないでしょうか
I'm telling you that it can. Never in a million years did I think that this virus would
で
have
これ今後ろが CNN だけどこれが国会になったらいいんでしょ
So if I could have folks take 3 things away from watching our story tonight. The first is stay home. By you staying home, you are keeping your family, your friends, and your community safe. The second is please encourage others to stay home. Tell your friends, tell your family. It's not worth it. It's not worth to go out and infect another person. And then last but not least, you know, by staying home, just remember that you are saving someone else's life. So the next time before you walk out the door, just think about that.
It's so, one of the things that's so,
これでいいんじゃないですか
I mean, just adds to the sadness of so many of
これでいいんじ
the
ゃないでしょう
losses
か
is their inability to be with their loved one in their final moments because of quarantine and because of the concerns about the virus. Your mom's not going to be able to attend the funeral, is that right?
That's right. So not only did my grandfather go into that hospital and die alone in that hospital room, my mother is not going to be able to attend his funeral, and I'm going to have to FaceTime her from my phone so that she can say goodbye virtually to her father. And same with my father. He's not going to be able to say goodbye to his father-in-law. I'm going to have to FaceTime him separately
でこれを
because they're not together in the house so that they could say goodbye to him.
Well, Jen, I mean, I'm so sorry for your loss, and
申し上げます
小柄志文次郎が
無益な接触をしたくありませんどうか手を引いておくんなさい手引く聞くにてめえが2、3日物が食えずにひょろついてるってことは全国耳に入ってるんだこの隙だ文次郎を叩き切って男をあげろい
だいぶディレイがあるね
せやろあの親分が死んでもいいかい
音が小さいとだいぶどうでしょうこれ著作権的には2時間もわからんな怖いなでもな怖いな著作権的に NG かもわかんないです俺だけにしましたこれで初めて VR4HD の全機能を使いましたありがとうございました100万かかったなこれ顔認識の枠消せないのよ消せないね顔認識の音枠が消し方があんのかなよいしょよいしょよいしょ消せるはずだよね俺がまだ触ってないだけだよね てかね、出てこないのメニューが。あ、電源がまだないって言われるのか。はい、わかりました。じゃあもうちょっと待ちます。やっぱ顔認識切られへんな。顔認識切りたいな。あ、画面表示が出るんやと思った。まあええわ、ちょっとそれは後でやろう。で、ただアウトプットの解像度を上げたいな、これな。これじゃダメだよね。ビデオアウト。スケールタイプ。違うんだよ。こうすればいいんだ。多分これですっごい画像上がるはず。これですげえクリア。OBS 的にはもうほぼフルハイビジョンですね。で、これが、俺の声小さい？小さくないよね。これが、あれなんだよね。 OBS の負荷よりも多分リーストリームの負荷なんだ。ファック。リーストリームの負荷なんだこれ。リーストリームがこれレゾリューションを変えたいね。オフラインになってる今。オフラインになってないよね。つながってるよね。つながってるよね。なんでこんなんなんの。これレゾリューションを変えたいな。レゾリューション変えれんだったっけ。だからここでおかしくなってんだよね。OK、ちょっと待って。一回落ちます。ごめんなさい。一回落ちます。一回落ちます。